Good evening, Sharks fans. It is Thursday night, November 8th. Yes, I forgot which month it is because it was a rough one tonight for the San Jose Sharks as they lose 4-3 to the Dallas Stars. This is Town After Dark, your live interactive Sharks post-game show for the fans, by the fans. So if you want to join us, be a part of the show, there's multiple ways to interact with us. You can chat with us in the YouTube chat on the page or the app, or you can hit us up on the Twitter machine. Hashtag TealTownUSA. Why not just follow us on the social, as the cool kids call it? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, SoundCloud, and the YouTube channel. And we appreciate everybody that has subscribed so far. So thank you very much for joining me and the rest of the crew this evening, which includes a fellow Eric who spells his name the right way with the laundry in the background, Mr. Eric Landy.
Hi, Puck Guy. How you doing?
It was a good game. It was a frustrating game. It was a great game. And then it was like, oh, help him out, for crying out loud. So all that all around in Big D tonight at the Metroplex. Sharks coming off a 2-game winning streak, beating Philly in overtime, being Minnesota in regulation, but not enough to get the 2 points. So let's break it down, shall we? First period, Devin Shore, his 4th of the season from Tyler Seguin and Nikushkin at 8:57, gets on the board. Timely goal, just like Marlowe, my precious dog, timing his barks right at the right time as we go on the air. 1-0 Dallas. What did you take from that first goal?
Well, I mean, I think I'm going to be repeating myself over and over again, but another high danger chance given up by the Sharks. But I mean, it wasn't the worst coverage that I've seen in the world, but it was bad. And that's going to be a recurring theme kind of going through the entire game. It's just the Sharks giving up way too many high danger chances. But also, too, I mean, Martin Jones needs to start coming up a little bit bigger than he is. I mean, sure, he's had, in particular in that game in the first period, he had a couple of really key saves. But again, it's just look at the shots on goal. Look at how many he's giving up. And I'm just talking statistically, it's not looking great. Mm-hmm. But of course, I want to see what the Dallas Stars conversion rate was on high danger chances before I really start laying into Jones. But still, not so great.
Yeah, not the greatest of nights for the defense and for Jones. We'll be honest here. I mean, they had some hiccups here and there, but definitely some turnovers paved the way throughout this evening. The Sharks would get it back, though, later in the period at 14-18 as Timo Meier, barring any adjustments, entered tonight being just a goal behind the league lead. He gets his 12th on the season from LeBanc and Couture at 14-18, ties it up. Timo time seems to be happening all the time lately.
Yeah, I mean, Timo Meier is just a bull right now, and he got a really, really nice layup from LeBanc. It was a really nice creative pass into the slot from LeBanc, and Meier just kind of, I guess, adjusted his stick to deflect it on net and got it in. I was a little worried that the Couture-Meier combination would be lacking a little bit with Hurdle out again. But LeBanc has actually stepped up quite nicely, and he's really inserted Peter Boer has inserted LeBanc on the right line to get LeBanc kind of coming back up again. He did have a couple of misfires and a couple of missed passes on the power play, which I feel like his decision-making still not 100% there, but definitely good to see him kind of coming out of the funk for sure.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I think putting him on this line while Hurdle's out was trying to get the confidence going for LeBanc, and it's been mentioned that he kind of gets down on himself a little bit. So to have LeBanc in there was a nice few games for him lately. So he gets on the board. Timo gets his 12th, which is, barring any further results tonight, tied for the league lead in goals. And remember, in life as in hockey, it takes goals to win. The Sharks outshot Dallas 12-8 in that first period. They would go on to outshoot the Stars 13-9 in the second. However, 2 goals by Dallas, thanks to some rough turnovers. They were serving them up tonight, folks. Nice, hot, fresh, and ready, like you would get after a Thanksgiving meal. First off, Tyler Seguin breaks out of his schneid. His 4th of the season, that was unassisted at 6:57. And then Gamel Smith, his 2nd from Dickinson Hiskinen at 7:42. Just
is it Hiskinen or is it Heiskanen?
Heiskanen. I'm sorry. I heard it was Hiskinen, but you know what? Thank you for reminding me. I heard Rusanowski, the great Dan Rusanowski, use it as Heiskanen.
Yeah.
So my apologies to the pronunciation police. And so 2 goals in 45 seconds. Dallas is up 3-1. You're thinking, oh boy, here it comes. The Sharks have had some troubles lately in Big D. What did you take from those 2 goals besides just the obvious?
Well, I mean, like I said before, it was just a really, really bad busted coverage. I mean, I'm just replaying it right now. I'm looking over it, and it's just a horrible, horrible, miscue by Brendan Dillon. He's trying to get the puck over to his defense partner, Erik Karlsson. Karlsson's kind of skating backwards, and, Dillon passing in front of his net while there's an opposing player, looking to swoop in. That's not a good play. That's not a good play. And that goal is on Brendan Dillon right there. And that's just goes to show you the brain farts, the mental miscues that this team has had, especially in the defensive zone. Mm-hmm. And tonight was really telling, of just the mental miscues.
And there's been a few of those, especially early on, and we thought that this team had kind of changed things around. And it's a tough one, and looking in the chat, it's Rob's World saying, is it time to start asking what is wrong with this team? California Cruising saying, defense on there. Rob Iman saying tonight's loss ranks a 3 on the puck impact scale. Jerry F, yes, and ironically, it's the defensive bonehead plays that cause the odd man rushes that seem to go in 4 out of 5 times. Add the fact that Jones has been average at best. Yeah. And M. Hackle still not worried. So
let's go back to the first goal in that sequence. The first goal in that 42-second sequence, Ryan makes a horrible pinch there. I mean, he's way up in the play. And, he's got a busted coverage there. It looks like he's holding his face like he got high sticked, which, by the way, tonight's officiating, not great. It was not the best that I'd ever seen. And, I mean, he's so far left in the offensive zone with the other guys coming back on a 2-on or 3-on-2. I understand that the whole defense core, and they must have gotten some kind of instruction to basically start pinching more and more aggressively, because you've got Joakim Ryan, who's supposed to be the safety valve there, kind of hanging out in the back. He's way up doing God knows what on the half boards.
Yeah.
And I understand, like I said, the team wants to play that high pressure game. They want to play that game where they're keeping the puck down low. But at what cost? At the cost of giving up 2-on-1s, 3-on-2s? I think I've seen more 3-on-2s and 2-on-1s this season than I did last. I mean, I don't know about you, Eric, but it just seems like the kinds of chances they're giving up are grade A.
They've been serving it up, and that Sagan goal was a back pass from Dylan back to Burns, and Sagan intercepts it, boom, goes in, and then a turnover because they can't hold his own, turns it back over for the Smith goal, with a nice tic tac toe passing play that had the players just fooled around them, and that is the concern going on here. And like Chris says in the chat, it's not just one or two or three players with the miscues. We can't blame it on Roman Polak, doing all of this. It's team wide. So there's definitely definitely a tough one here. Andy,
And
man, go ahead.
yeah, and I just want to kind of quickly go over a couple things I'm seeing in the chat. It's not that I'm complaining about them. It's just that these things that I'm seeing now, if they're not nipped in the bud quickly, it's going to start creeping into their game, and
Right.
that's why we've seen it be so inconsistent. Where it looks like the volume of chances is super high for the Sharks. It looks like the Sharks are dominating possession wise. But yet, if you're not covering your own defensive zone with good structure, you might give up 19 shots on net, but you're talking 10 grade A scoring chances, versus, let's say you give up, 30 shots on goal, but 7 or 8 are high danger. I don't know. It's basically pick your poison right now, and it's not good defensive structure, and I just hope that they clear it up.
Uh, they have to. I mean, if this team where this team is expected to go, very deep into June, they have to get these changes, these turnovers. Heck, for that matter, these lines. I think honestly need to get some chemistry, and some cohesiveness going before it gets out of hand and it's too late.
So let's talk about that actually, and that's kind of interesting that you bring that up. But I do want to give DeBoer credit tonight for reuniting Jumbo and Pavs, because
Mm-hmm.
that directly related to a goal. I also like the fact that he put Donskoy and Suomela with Kane back together, and he kept that Meyer Couture pairing together, and it did spark the offense. And as much crap as we give Peter DeBoer for line juggling and all that, he knows when to put the safety blanket back on the team. He knows when to put Vlasic back together with Braun. He knows he has kind of that good. Excuse me. He's got that good pulse on when he needs to reunite. I think for me the biggest concern is that he's not keeping those set pairs together, and then we're not getting full on chemistry, going forward. And I think the other thing that kind of is concerning is just the way he starts off the game and then transitions into those set pairs. And so for me at least, it's like, okay, yeah, you're putting these guys back together, but shouldn't that have been the way it started?
Yeah, and there's been a lot of questionable changes in the lineup. We'll put it at that. I know AJ was banging on the drum early on the last homestand when they broke up Meyer, Couture, and Hurdle before Hurdle went out with an injury. It's one of those things where it's like you want to develop multiple chemistry, with players, and just hasn't found it. I mean, now, like the chat's been saying, there have been flashes in the pan. I mean, it seems like there's you know they're getting close. So it's just a matter of time, and as much as we want wins in November and whenever we can get, it's about getting those wins in April and May and June down the line. So
Yeah, and everybody's kind of going through and talking about if there's going to be any kind of defensive lineup changes or anything like that. Look, it was going to be. I don't think that we really appreciated how difficult it was going to be to integrate Eric Carlson into the team. Everybody, including myself, said, "Oh my goodness, we're going to have Burns or Carlson or Vlasic out there." But the thing is that integrating a defenseman is a lot more difficult, and there's a lot more nuance to it than integrating a center.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it was going to be a little bit of a mixed bag, I guess, trying to put together this defense core, and really trying to break it down, so to speak, so that there would be people playing to each other's strengths and weaknesses. For instance, the Brendan Dillon and Eric Carlson pairing, I don't think works because Brendan Dillon has this idea that he's now becoming some kind of offensive defenseman. I've seen him make horrible pinches, and I've seen him make horrible shots on goal, and it's like, okay, that's great and all, but you're blowing your defensive coverage, and when you already have a guy who is offensively oriented to begin with, and now you're asking him to make defensive commitments that he's not normally making, that's going to be a problem.
Right.
That's going to be a problem. And then people have been saying that it looks like Braun has lost a step a little bit, and I agree, but you know what? Vlasic hasn't looked all that great either.
The defensive core has been struggling. I mean, it's no question, and maybe that's where the defensive unit blender has come in, and it hasn't meshed as well. And I get that's why people are thinking, well, okay, do you put Simic out there? Do you put Heat out there? I don't think you do. I think you have to stay by it, and you have to find your way. I mean, there's got to be something for it, because something's got to give. I mean, this team is way too talented. Even the youngsters and the prospects, whether it's Joachim Ryan or Kevin LeBanc or whoever it is, you can't say this is bad. I mean, this team is 8-5-3 right now. They're in the hunt for first place in the Pacific, as much as many people on the East Coast will say the Pacific Division is just awful. But let's get back to the recap, because not everything was awful on this night. Joe Pavelski, as you said, got reunited with Jumbo Joe Thornton, and a nice little tip drill gets Pavelski his 7th of the season from Burns and Thornton at 11:17. They cut it down to 3-2 after 2 periods. Landy, it's nice to have Joe Thornton get that 1 assist. If I'm not mistaken, that gives him a tie with Mario Lemieux on the all-time assist list. So Pavs doing his thing, as he always does, getting his 7th of the year, going down 3-2. After that, they had a power play chance later in the period where they just didn't get it done tonight, but they definitely had some chances there for sure after 2 periods.
Yeah, I think, again, it was nice to see them battle back after those 2 goals really quickly, back to back, and it was good to see them kind of come back into the period and not go out with a whimper. That third period really sets up into or that second period really sets up into a nice third period. But again, it's those high danger chances that are just keep creeping in. And we'll go into the third period, I mean, whenever you're ready, Eric. But yeah, I mean, Evander Kane ends up coming off the schneid with really a kind of a weird goal. It's kind of a knuckler, kind of like change up, as the broadcast was saying. But basically, you had Hudobin moving to his left, Kane, basically nudging it on his right hand side, and gets it, go under the pad. So I mean, the Sharks tie it up 3-3 7:46 into the third period, and you're thinking, okay, you know what? The team has had some good chances. They're swapping, they're swapping scoring chances on either side, but it looks like, hey, we might have come out of the come to the calm and the storm a little bit, and then unfortunately Devon Shore picks up a goal that is just a weird deflection. That's all I can say. It comes off of Pavelski's skate, right?
Mm-hmm. Comes off Pavelski's skate. Jones doesn't see where it's at, so he's trying to make the heroic stop, where he had a bunch of those on this night to keep the Sharks in this game. But Shore buries it home. He gets the game winner. The Sharks definitely had some chances late, including Joe Thornton on a breakaway. Hudobin stones him Cole in the last minute. So the final ends up being 4-3 Dallas. Both teams are at 19 points. But yeah, it was just one of those games where it's like, just if one mistake or a couple there, this thing is completely different.
Right. I mean, and that is the real killer here, is that this game was, was up for grabs, but the Sharks again just not able to sort out in the defensive end. Even that it was a really weird bounce. I'm seeing a non-confident goaltender right now, because if Martin Jones was playing, and I have a little bit of a pet theory here, so just go with me for a minute. If Martin Jones is playing confident, he kind of makes his own space. We've seen him push guys out of the way and make his own space and front pucks a lot better. Right now, we're seeing him, we're seeing him back in and creep further and further into the crease. He's not being that confident guy that really goes out to the top of the crease and makes those saves and cuts down the angles. Like I said before, he does. Normally he does make his own space, so he can front pucks and he can see them. So my pet theory is, and we've seen this throughout the entire landscape of the NHL right now, and I think it's something that the goalies have really talked up, is the reduction of the pad sizes. And I don't know if you've noticed, but when he gets a shot on goal, when the opposing team gets a shot on goal on Jones, you can see it in his eyes. He flinches. And I'm wondering if maybe the pucks are hurting him. Because a lot of the other goaltenders, Braden Holtby especially, was triumphing. This is like, I'm getting bruises now, when I used to not get bruises. And I see Jones not really stand up to pucks as much anymore. He's now preferring to be in the butterfly a lot more than he used to be, because he used to kind of be a little bit more of a hybrid. And he's not fronting the pucks as much as we've seen before. And he kind of ducks his head out of the way when he's got those screaming shots, where before that wasn't necessarily the case. I mean, he would make stops off of his mask. So, to me, he's fighting it a little bit. I don't know.
And we've seen that this goal scoring has gone up in this league, and you've seen, wild scores. I mean, what was it? Chicago, Toronto. I mean, or we've seen like 7-6, 6-5. I mean, you've seen some of those creep in to these scores this season, where in the past, I mean, we've seen like neutral zone traps where games were like 2-0, 2-1. You're definitely seeing more creativity here, and I'm wondering if there's an adjustment going on with these goaltenders. And you're right, I've heard the same things, on numerous insiders who talk to goaltenders, because we kind of are outsiders, of course.
Right.
That there is a little more bruising because the padding is a little more restrictive and such. And you kind of expect that to come, and it changes the metrics of how you go up against, taking a certain shot, because the padding that you used to bank on, not there anymore. the looseness of the jersey, not there anymore. You know,
right? The bigger trapper, the bigger cheater. That's the cheater is the spot on the inside on the glove hand, or actually no, sorry, it's the meeting between the I don't know what the hell they call that, but it's basically that top portion where the glove ends.
yeah,
And there's a little bit of a webbing there, and they call it the cheater. Um, Andy brings up a good point. He's saying he's wondering if this is a coaching staff instruction, if maybe Hedberg or Nabby is saying, look, if it's going to hurt, go into the butterfly a little bit more. Because, it doesn't align with Jones's natural style. Um, I, I mean, I don't know. It just seems like right now there's just something that Jones is not comfortable with, he is really. I mean, it's really showing up in his game. It's showing him either being out of position, not being set in the correct position, either being in the butterfly or being in the stand up. And a guy I would really love for him to be on Twitter, but unfortunately he's retired, is Zach.
Yep.
Divine would be able to tell instantly if Jones is what kind of ailing him, but I think he would also say it's a little bit of a technique and a little bit of a confidence thing going on right now.
And like I said, I think it's also the adjustments that everybody's going on. I mean, looking at the stats and the schedule this season for the Sharks, the last time that they allowed less than 3 goals was October 20th when they beat the Islanders 4-1. Overall, they've had 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, they've had 4 games where they've allowed 2 or fewer goals this season. So that's kind of been the metrics. You're not going to have the 920 save percentage or the shutouts per se. Just hasn't worked out that way. It's definitely got to work on the defense and supporting Jones or Dell. Do you go with a platoon like I forget who said it in the chat just now?
Well, look, I mean, I think it's naturally happening, right? I think Dell is going to get the start tomorrow, and I think I think they've done a good job in splitting up the beginning part of the schedule between Jones and Dell. And it's nice to see Dell get a little bit more of the early starts in October, November,
I completely agree.
Where we didn't see that last year. And I think DeBoer is getting a little bit more comfortable with Dell. And to be quite honest, the team plays a little bit differently too. But I'm going over just because we're talking about goaltenders here, and just going over save percentage. Right now, Pecorino leads the league with 949. Of course, he missed some time, but Thomas Greiss with a 940, Vasilevsky with a 937, Yar Halak with a 936. So it's not like it's all that different, but
no. But I mean, Chris just ran the numbers. He said goals per game last year was at 293. So far, it's 3.04. So goals are up. I'm surprised it's not up more than that, though. So it's one of those early season things. It's things are going to get a little tighter. Things will change. There'll be ways for goaltenders to find a way to get away with it. So, but like Andy Man in the chat say, in the last 10, the Sharks are 6-2-2. 14 out of 20 points is definitely not shabby, and that's the great point, especially how this team kind of started on that rough road trip where they beat the Islanders 8-2, but they lost a tough one to New Jersey. They got shut out in Brooklyn, and they blew a lead against the Rangers. So this team is definitely getting there. They still have plenty of times. They're still having plenty of where they want to go. I mean, the quarter pole is coming around, and usually the idea of what you're going to have for the season is at that quarter pole or American Thanksgiving. And I think that's where this team will find out what they have and what they need to do to improve themselves.
Of course, of course, and look, I mean, it's not all doom and gloom because they get to
Oh,
go back. They get to go back tomorrow, play St. Louis. They're probably going to be frustrated, so it's going to be nice to see the team. Let's see how they respond. It'll be cool to see how they respond, and they could, tie for first place tomorrow, and then, of course, we won't be talking about tonight's game. It's just a little disappointing, and I think it's a little concerning because there are some concerning spots, especially with what you're saying, and where the last time that they had a game under 2 goals, we're talking early mid-November or October, excuse me, yeah, and so that is the concerning thing to me. But
so.
um,
Let's. Oh, go ahead.
I wanted to ask you one last thing. Have you noticed? Let's talk a little bit about Evander Kane. Have you noticed him playing with a little less jam than he normally has? I mean, at the beginning of the season, it seemed like he was like flying around, and now kind of slowed down a little bit.
He's definitely changed a little bit. He definitely had a little more. What's the word here? More aggressiveness to him, and I think the coach is kind of like, hold on, let's calm down, don't get angry. We don't want you to take, penalties, which he was taking early on and getting into people's faces because they need him out on the ice. I think, yeah, it was a little bit of a curveball or changeup that got him off the schneid. But I think he's gonna. I think he'll be getting better. I think he will. I think, again, everybody's with these changes have definitely changed things around a lot, and they need to adapt to these changes very soon as we get closer and closer to the quarter pole.
Right, and wasn't it last year Evander Kane didn't have a goal for like, it was like something like 30 games or something like that? I want to say he went through some real bad stretch where he didn't score for, like I said, like 30 games or something like that. But he's collecting points, which is good. Timo Meyer is just on fire right now. That kid, I mean, it's good to see him going to the net and really getting those greasy goals, and it's nice to see the youth kind of stepping up.
No, and that's the huge point there. Timo, LeBank's starting to get his confidence going with that line. It'll be interesting to see what happens once Hurdle returns. Is your mic in your headphone wires right now, Buckeye? Could it be hitting your shirt? I would hope not, because it should be connected to my Yeti. So if it is, I completely apologize. I'll stretch it out for that going forward. But let's get to the final stats on the night here. The Sharks outshot the Stars 36-22. Face-off percentages fairly even, but the Stars had a 51-49 edge. The power plays, Dallas was 0 for 1. The Sharks had 3 chances, including a double minor. Just didn't get anything done there tonight. That's one thing that's got to make sure they get on the board and get moving with. Hits, Dallas was throwing the body around 23-9. They blocked 7 more shots than the Sharks did at 18-11, and giveaways were about even. You had Meyer, Kane, Pavelski getting on the board for the Sharks. Brent Burns had another 2-point night, 2 assists on the evening to continue essentially leading this team and leading the defense corps in domination. For Dallas, 2 goals from Devin Shore. Of course, he's your number 1 star. Sagan was your number 2 star. Burns, he was the number 3 star. Jones made 18 of 22 saves on the evening, while Hudobin made 33 saves on 36 shots. And so that was the gist of the evening for the Sharks. They lose 4-3 to Dallas. They will go to St. Louis tomorrow. That game is at 5 p.m. So, Landy, is it time?
It's time for that NHL wraparound.
Thank you. It's the wraparound. So we have just one game in progress right now, and that's Minnesota at Los Angeles. Uh, Halfway through the game, it is 1-1. Nico Niederreiter with his first of the season. Jake Muzzin his first of the season. So that game was tied up 1-1 between Minnesota and Los Angeles. In Boston tonight. Oh my goodness. Bo Horvat with 2 goals. Louis Eriksson with 2 goals. Hutton, Roussel, Gabranson, and Rockets' favorite, Vertanen, or Jake Vertanen, they all scored 8 goals as the Canucks beat the Bruins 8-5 at TD Garden. Jake DeBrusk with 2 goals for the Bruins in the losing effort. Patrice Bergeron with his 8th on the season. The Canucks are now at 21 points. They are now in first place in the Pacific Division. The Bruins are at 8-5-2. In Sunrise, Florida tonight, the Oilers lose 4-1 to the Florida Panthers. Dadonov, Lugstad, Huberto, and Savoie are your goal scorers for the Panthers as Luongo gets the win, moves the Panthers up to 4-5-3 on the campaign. The Oilers stay at 17 points at 8-7-1.
The Coyotes lose in overtime to the Flyers, 5-4. Oliver Ekman Larson with a goal. Brad Richards, Derek Stefan, Michael Grabner, Derek Stepan and Michael Grabner both on the PK. And the Coyotes amazingly have 9 short-handed goals on the season already. However, Konechny, Lawton again, Weiss, and Gostisbehere in overtime score for the Flyers, and the Flyers skate away 5-4.
In Montreal, you had a crazy game. And again, here's all these scores here. You saw 5-4. This one, Sabres 6, Canadians 5 in overtime. Ristolainen with the game-winning goal in overtime for Buffalo. Jeff Skinner with 2 goals. He's now at 11 on the year. Vladimir Sobotka, the one Kevin Lacey would always talk about right before Teal tinted glasses, he gets 2 goals on the night. Connor Sheary, his 6. For Montreal, Drouin, Pekka, Shaw, Tatar, and Delorier, all your goal scorers for Montreal. Carey Price takes the loss. Both teams with 8 wins. However, Montreal is at 19 points, Buffalo at 18. In Ottawa, they are taking Ubers home in disappointment, where the Vegas Golden Knights beat the Ottawa Senators 5-3.
There was a power play goal scored, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yes, there was.
There were 2 power play goals scored by the Golden Knights. Marchessault, Theodore, Holden, Carrier, and Belmar for the Golden Knights. Duchesne, Zingle, and Chabot goals for the Ottawa Senators.
The Lightning beat the Islanders 4-2. Josh Bailey scores twice for the New York Islanders. Joseph, JT Miller, Tyler Johnson, and Steven Stamkos all scoring for the Lightning. And the Lightning now go to 12-3-1. They're off to a really, really good start.
In Chicago, the Hurricanes beat up on Cam Ward's new team, the Chicago Blackhawks, 4-3. Calvin DeHaan, Di Giuseppe, Slavin, and Shevchenkov, all goal scorers for the Hurricanes, while Patrick Kane gets his 12th. Kampf and Schmaltz get their 2nd each, but the Blackhawks do not get their win. Hurricanes now at 16 points. The Blackhawks are at 15 points.
Yeah, and Corey Crawford actually in net on that one, puck guy. And, the Blackhawks, oh my goodness. We had a couple of people talking about the Peter DeBoer, what are we going to do, Joe Quenneville being out there, and I just think that that's a little bit of a pipe dream.
I can't see it happening. Granted, it was reported about a decade ago that one of the choices when the Sharks decided to go with Todd McClellan was that it was Joel Quenneville who also came in for looking at the Sharks job back in 2008. So there is a there is a possibility, but don't bank on it, guys. I think PDB is going to be here for the long haul.
I agree. As much as we feel like, there is better options. I Doug Wilson is one of the most loyal guys in hockey, and that's kind of to a fault. And I see Peter DeBoer really, really buying his own, buying time with just the way that the team has played under him. So again, I don't put any stock into the people saying that the Sharks could be interested in a coaching change.
Yeah, I can't see it. Um, it'd be tough for me to even think of a thought that would happen mid-season, and that hasn't happened mid-season since Daryl Sutter was fired around November of 2002 in favor eventually for Ron Wilson. So, as for the San Jose Barracuda, they start a 3-3 this weekend. Friday night, they are in Tucson to take on the Roadrunners at 6:05. That will be on the app or KDOW. They'll play again Saturday night, same time in Tucson, and then they'll finish up in Colorado to take on the Colorado Eagles. That's a 5 p.m. start. I'm sorry, they'll be home on the 18th. That's your next home game where it's Cleveland Barons night. That's the 18th. So it's just a back-to-back in Tucson, and then they'll have the rest of the week off. So that being said, we look forward to tomorrow night where this Hungry Sharks squad should be going up against the St. Louis Blues, who have had their issues themselves in their own, and there's already been a number of people in Blues Twitter asking for Joel Quenneville to take over from Mike Yeo, who even publicly said himself a couple of weeks ago, my job is on the line. The Blues are 5-5-3, and only LA is keeping them out of the basement in the Western Conference. Set us up for tomorrow night.
Yeah, the Sharks. I mean, like I said before, should really be going into St. Louis and just being kind of feisty. And you know what? If I were Mike Yeo, I wouldn't be giving myself the kiss of death. But right right now that team is just underperforming. Now, their saving grace is that they do have 3 less games played than we do. I mean, they're sitting at 13 games played, which is, I believe, only Florida has played less than them. So, while the St. Louis Blues are floundering, I mean, let's just for instance say that they rattle off 3 out of their 3 games in hand. That's 16 points, and then you're not so much in the doldrums.
Nope.
But still, St. Louis, I mean, in their last 10, they're 4-4-2. Not gonna cut it.
Not at all. Not at all. So it'll be quite interesting to see. The curious case of Jake Allen is definitely been a hot topic among Blues fans on whether or not he can carry this team. Ryan O'Reilly has been great this year. Jay Bomeister, one of the best shutdown defensemen in the league in the past, has been a healthy scratch for the Blues. It's been real interesting. And speaking of the Blues, myself and Chris JWS were on the Let's Go Blues radio podcast last night. You can check that out online, or if you follow myself or Chris on Twitter, you can find the link in our timelines. So with that being said, a quick turnaround tomorrow for us. We'll be back with you tomorrow night after the game. The game's at 5 p.m. on NBC Sports California. So with that, my fellow Eric, Mr. Landy, your final thoughts and where the people can find you.
Final thoughts are: let's tighten it up just a little bit on the defensive end. Let's keep those goals coming from from the youngins, and let's hope Eric Carlson gets his first goal tomorrow. As far as where you can find me, you can use my first name, Eric, my last name, Landy, in all of the social media garbage. And yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, what other media, social
You
media.
looking for a job?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Awesome. That is Eric Landy, and that is spelled ERIKLANDI for all of you scoring at home or you're alone. For me, I am Eric Curry. You can always find me on the Twitter and Instagram at PuckGuy14. We do this after every game, and we appreciate each and every one of you for joining us afterwards. Then thank you for subscribing as well. So in case you missed this or you want to watch this again, make sure you check us out on tealtownusa.com or your favorite podcatcher, whether it's iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn. Of course, please smash that subscribe button, ring that bell to get notified when we go on the air. As Landy's like, oh my God, stop karaokeing on the air. I apologize for that. But again, we will be back with you following Sharks and Blues as they finish up this quick 2-game road trip. So you're laughing. You're trying to hold it back.
But where can I get the Sharks nachos, Puck Guy?
Oh, dude. All right. We got to talk about this. Yes. The Sharks nachos. Funny enough, it's at the old tweet up spot outside section 118 by the Sharks Foundation kiosk. Myself and the girlfriend Amanda spent $22 on barbecue brisket nachos. That there were 2 layers or 2. I don't know what it was, like tortilla chips, brisket, with the queso, with the white queso, and then all the goodies: pico de gallo, cilantro, shredded cheese. Oh gosh, that was amazing! And you get to go home in a helmet that looks like something Wayne Gretzky wore in the '80s.
Oh my goodness, $22 nachos! But man, you're making me hungry.
Right? So we need to get out of here because apparently Landy needs to have dinner.
Actually, I had some soup, but man, nachos just sounds so good right now. Girlfriend, pick me up a nachos Belgrande.
Landy's girlfriend, if you're watching, the boy needs some nachos Belgrande. Por favor. With that being said, we will be back with you, of course, following Sharks and Blues. So until then, keep it real, keep it teal. Keep it real, Teal. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great one, everyone.
Real nachos.
Real nachos. Oh.